To have a nice, thank
yes,
you.
I see a pretty
oh yes,
good Luger
oh
there.
yes, there we go.
Yes, doctor,
Yes.
it's a fair-sized Luger. I think it's.
You're going to have to sit there and do the same thing.
I'm not going on my nose.
No. And the reason to look in the nose is because sometimes with cystic fibrosis, yeah, it gets plugged up a bit, and the sinuses get plugged up, and then there's some swelling at the back of the nose, which we don't see in you. So that looks perfect. We would review how things are going in terms of the lungs and what's happening with that, and in general, what's happening with school and what's going on at home, and how CF is actually interfering with Ryan's life and all the things that he would like to do. But there's also a family support worker or social worker who sees him. The nurses will see him.
I've got to go.
And because there are so many medications involved, we'll have a pharmacist review things and help us in clinic to make sure we've got the right dosing and we're keeping track of everything that's happening. And then there is more, you need to use some medications to help you to digest foods. So a dietitian will help with that, and a GI specialist will help with all the other complications that we may have from cystic fibrosis in the stomach and in the liver and that sort of thing. The other person that he would see is somebody that helps to teach how to clear the secretions that he has in his lungs and in his airways. And that takes a lot of time. That's going to take a minimum of an hour a day. If we take all the treatments that Ryan's on, he's probably taking upwards of 1 to 2 hours a day just to maintain his health with physiotherapy, with the different treatments. If we start using nebulized treatments, so missed treatments for antibiotics or for other agents, then that's going to take another 15 minutes for each of those. So it's a huge commitment each day, and we need to help him with that. And one of the things we're hoping to find are ways that we can reduce that number of therapies so that we can not have as much interference and maintain health without as much medication and without as much treatment.
So, Dr. Mark, what kind of challenges does my nephew face? Obviously, our hopes for him is to be that young adult that gets married and has careers and things like that. But what are going to be some of his obstacles? Let's say obstacles, because they are obstacles.
Well, it's going to be
Challenges.
a lifelong challenge to keep those airways clear, to clear out the secretions. As secretions, if you don't clear them out perfectly, which is very difficult in cystic fibrosis, then there's infection that develops, there's infection, and then there's irritation that develops, and that irritation leads to scarring. With that scarring, you gradually lose lung function. And over decades, that happens. And it happens if you keep doing everything exactly as we should.
So exercise, the enzymes, the breathing practices,
Yeah.
Cystic fibrosis is still unstoppable.
It's unstoppable. What we're hoping is we keep the problems with the lungs mild until a new cure, until a new treatment is available. Because presently we can slow things down, but we can't totally cure them.
That's what we're trying to do with this whole, the foundation and raising funds to keep the research going, to keep, and to make sure that lung transplants aren't the cure. Because a lot of people kind of resort, well, can't you get a lung transplant? Well, it still doesn't take away the fact that you have cystic fibrosis. So you can see it's not all fun and laughing, and I mean, it's really fun to laugh and it's great to have a sense of humor, but there's a real serious aspect to this as well, and it's a disease that has no cure. And we need people's support, and we need awareness. We need people to understand what the disease is and what these kids are facing. So made lots of improvements, but
yeah, it'd
be nice to be 90, and being able to take a breath of air. It'd be nice to be 50, yes it would.
Yeah, we've come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. And I think if we can continue that striving and that effort, then we can make a huge impact, and it's going to take a lot more work.
Kind of gives you a little insight into what we're dealing with here tonight and why we're here at the CF Lung Function. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to somebody very close to Ryan. That is his mom, Rona Richards. Won't you please come up to our stage and Give us a little more insight onto your beautiful son, Jann's nephew, your son.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. I am Rona Richards, Ryan's mom. When I was a little girl, I loved playing pretend. I was the teacher, the fairy princess, the doctor, but my most important role was being the mom. I had dolls, Barbies, Fisher-Price little people, and I was always their mummy. As I was growing up, the desire to be the mom never went away. The day that I heard I was pregnant was one of the happiest days of my life. My wish to have a baby was finally coming true. And how lucky was I that I was going to have two. Ryan and his brother Ethan arrived on September 11th, 1999, 80 days before their actual due date. Oh, how I wanted to go back to playing make-believe. When I finally came out of my surgical fog, it was clear to me that the road ahead was going to be very windy with many bumps. I was told that having a baby in the NICU was a roller coaster ride. Well, I was never one for scary rides. I'm the one walking the midway eating popcorn and cotton candy. Although Ryan was the bigger of the two babies, weighing 2 pounds 5 ounces, it wasn't long before he became the sicklier, fragile of the two boys. Each day I arrived at the hospital in time to participate in rounds. I became very well versed at all of the machines, procedures, and medical verbiage that surrounded me each day. Ryan had a series of blood tests, ultrasounds, CAT scans, you name it, he endured it. His inability to gain weight and the ongoing jaundice labeled him failure to thrive, words that haunt me to this day. This fragile baby had yet to leave the incubator he had been placed in at birth. After another round of testing, as well as a surgery that involved removing Ryan's gallbladder, our pediatrician decided Ryan needed to eat and grow in his own home. At 4 months and weighing 4.5 pounds, he had yet to ride in a car or sleep in his own crib. I couldn't have been happier. Sadly, it was clear that although Ryan was home, he still wasn't healthy. One afternoon, I sat down to read the book, What to Expect the First Year. The back of the book contains information about genetic diseases. Cystic fibrosis is a disease that many people have heard of, but no one really knows what it is. I was one of those people. My mouth hung open as I read through all of the symptoms. Ryan had each and every one. What would this mean? What would our day-to-day life look like? And most importantly, what would the future hold? 3 months later, the diagnosis of CF was confirmed. There was a part of me that was relieved to finally have a name for all Ryan was experiencing, but the other part of me was terrified. Upon receiving the news, Lisa Semple, who was the clinic nurse at the time, could see that I was in a state of shock. She approached me and handed me a piece of paper. "This is my home phone number," she said. "Please call me tonight if you need someone to talk to." That kind of support continues to this very day. The first CF clinic that we attended was truly overwhelming. The learning curve was enormous. Introducing enzymes, keeping track of daily medication, and being diligent with physio made my head spin. I kept feeling like a failure as a mother. Every time I attempted to do physio, Ryan would cry and get himself so worked up that I would stop. I felt guilty when I did it and guilty when I didn't. I remember attending a clinic early on and discussing this with Dr. Montgomery. He told me that I shouldn't feel badly when Ryan cried. It was actually good for his lungs to take those big breaths while having physio. Comforting words such as those gave me the strength to follow through each day. Every member of the CF clinic team has touched our lives in a positive way. Panic phone messages are returned immediately. Questions and concerns are handled with patience and kindness. I have had many nights where I've woken up by Ryan coughing. It is nights like these that fill me with panic about Ryan's future and praying that he'll be able to be here to enjoy all that life has to offer him as an adult. Back in the first few weeks after Ryan was born, I'll never forget the words of one of my closest NICU friends. She said, "Rona, you wait. He is going to be such a character. He has something in his eyes that is truly special." I remember thinking to myself, she's only saying this to make me feel better. It will be a true miracle if this baby will ever walk or talk. Well, she must have had a crystal ball, because a character he is. This once fragile newborn is now an active 11-year-old boy. Ryan is truly my miracle. He loves skateboarding, snowboarding, hanging out with his buddies, and telling me all about his crush on Katy Perry. He has a sense of humor that often leaves the entire family in stitches. Day-to-day life is not always easy for Ryan. I'm so proud of how independent he's become with his CF care. He organizes his pills each day and is able to tell you what they are as well as what they're for. He is diligent with his daily pep and requires only minimal nagging from me. 2 years ago, Ryan asked me if he would be able to go to sleepaway camp in the summer. I discussed it with him and said that until you're able to manage your medication and work on your physio, sleepover camp will not be an option. Throughout last year, everyone at clinic assisted in Ryan being able to go away to camp. And in August 2010, he went away for 3 weeks. As I said goodbye to him at the bus, my heart was bursting with pride, but I was also very nervous about his health. Ryan arrived back home tired and voiceless, but with stories and experiences I could have only dreamed for him. He made it clear as he stepped off the bus he would be going back to camp again this summer. His positive attitude and zest for life has enabled him to keep up with his peers and participate in all life's great adventures. Although I passed on the CF gene, I also passed on the feeling of optimism. He's still too young to know the harsh realities of this disease, and sadly I realize that one day soon it will be my job to talk to him. What I will tell him is that it's always important to have hope. Ryan is proof that miracles happen and can continue to happen. I cannot begin to express my gratitude that I feel towards everyone who is here this evening. I've always tried to maintain an optimistic attitude in life, and if there's one word that represents how I feel, it is hope. Hope that Ryan will experience all the things that, as his mom, I wish for him. With supportive professionals in both the children's and adult clinic, as well as with those of you here tonight, we can all share in the feeling of hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rona. And ladies and gentlemen, that right there is why we are here tonight. We can stand up here and we can talk statistics and we can talk about the work that's being done and we can explain why this disease happens, but that is why we're here. Listening to Rona, hearing about Ryan, hearing about everything they go to on a day-to-day, seeing the emotional reaction around the room from people who understand and have lived through exactly what Rona does, that's why we're here. So thank you again, and I want to thank again Ryan. Can we give a round of applause for Ryan? I don't know too many 11-year-olds that would be that comfortable having a couple cameras. I don't know too many 30-year-olds that would be comfortable having a camera follow them around. But Ryan did an absolutely awesome job. It doesn't hurt that Auntie Jann is absolutely the most hilarious person in Western Canada. That doesn't hurt one bit. But a huge round of applause to them for stepping up, doing this video, and giving us all a little bit of a look into what the day-to-day of a CFer is like. Yeah.